Thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk on Atlanta News First Plus. As you can see, we are taking you out live to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, where preparations are currently underway, cameras being set up, as we are expected to hear from Mayor Andre Dickens and airport officials who will outline their efforts to stop human trafficking at the world's busiest airport. This is an annual press conference they hold each year to address human trafficking in the state of Georgia and ways that city, state, and federal partners are working together to bring an end to that. The mayor will be joined by various community leaders inside of Hartsfield-Jackson. They will stress the importance of what's being done to prevent trafficking and the importance of collaboration within law enforcement and local government. They will also discuss the importance of speaking up if you see someone you think is a victim of human trafficking. Georgia has a human trafficking hotline. The number is 866-363-4842. We are going to keep an eye on this news conference, waiting for remarks to begin from various airport officials, as well as, of course, the mayor, who will be speaking here momentarily. This news conference was called for 10 o'clock, so we are just getting underway. In the meantime, I do want to talk about some other headlines that we're following here, starting with this breaking news out of Washington, D.C., involving an American Airlines plane and a helicopter that had collided, and it has now a massive rescue underway. As you can see on your screen here, I'm just going to change this graphic over. This was the scene earlier this morning, just before the sun came up. The 64 people on that American Airlines flight and 3 soldiers on a military helicopter, all believed to be dead right now after the 2 aircrafts collided in the air. So far, crews have recovered 27 people from the plane and 1 from the helicopter. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is at Reagan National Airport just outside of Washington, D.C. with the latest.
Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river.
Now a recovery effort for the victims in the frigid waters of the Potomac River.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
American Airlines says Flight 5342, operated by PSA Airlines from Wichita, Kansas, was approaching the airport with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board.
We're absolutely heartbroken for the family and loved ones of the passengers and crew members.
This man told a local CBS News affiliate that he believes his wife was on the plane returning from a business trip.
She texted me that they were landing in 20 minutes. The rest of my text didn't get delivered. That's when I realized something might be up.
The Army says the Black Hawk helicopter involved, similar to this one, was on a training flight with 3 service members on board.
In a statement, President Donald Trump said he's monitoring the situation on social media. He also questioned the actions of the helicopter and air traffic control prior to the collision.
We will not rest until we have answers for the families and for the flying public.
Multiple agencies are investigating the incident, including the Pentagon, FBI, Federal Aviation Administration, with the National Transportation Safety Board taking the lead. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
And I want to take folks out now, back out to the press conference at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, where remarks are currently getting underway. Again, we will be hearing from airport officials, city and state leaders, as well as Mayor Andre Dickens here shortly. I do believe we are still waiting for those remarks to begin. In the meantime, taking a live look outside at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, where currently we are feeling the impacts from that breaking news out near Washington, D.C., as flights to Reagan National Airport currently being paused as this investigation and rescue efforts continue. And so for the folks that are at Hartsfield-Jackson, seeing those flight impacts, just as we've heard from officials throughout this morning, both on air and online here at Atlanta News First, they are asking for patience as they continue these search and rescue efforts, as well as work to get the airport back to full operation. While we wait for this news conference to begin, I do want to bring in First Alert meteorologist Rodney Harris with a look at your forecast.
And Maria, we are looking at a First Alert weather day for Friday. We've been talking about this for the past several days. I want to make sure you are aware that you will be impacted by rain in North Georgia on Friday. So just a heads up for those of you who are going to get out and about. I want to take you through our latest high resolution forecast model. Gives us a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. And I'll say our models have been fairly consistent here with the timing. One difference today versus yesterday is the timing is a little bit later today compared to yesterday. So we'll start with Friday morning. As you're driving to work, you're fine. I'm not forecasting any rain on Friday morning, but right after your commute is when that rain will start to move in. So by 11 o'clock, we will start to have that rain moving into the northwestern parts of Metro Atlanta, like Cobb County, Cherokee County, Bartow County, and that'll be over Metro Atlanta at lunch tomorrow. So again, lunch tomorrow, we do have rain out there in parts of really all of Metro Atlanta at lunch. That's going to continue through the afternoon. So this is one of the changes. Yesterday, the rain was for the most part moving out by 3 o'clock when the kiddos are getting to school. Today, that rain looks like it will stick around. So 3 o'clock, you're picking up the kids from school. Scattered rain will be out there. That will continue through 5, 6 o'clock as you're driving home from work. So scattered rain will still be out there. And it does look like the rain will move out Friday night by 8 o'clock. So if you have any Friday night plans, the later you leave, the better. If you're leaving before 7, you may still get wet, especially if you're southeast of Atlanta. But after 8 o'clock, that rain will start to move out of North Georgia. And we'll keep you up to date on the timing of the rain. But basically, late morning by lunch, all the way up until about 7 o'clock, we will have scattered rain. Again, not a washout. So it's not going to rain starting at 11 a.m., just nonstop all day. But it will rain off and on throughout the day, and you're likely to get wet at some point. So a heads up there. In terms of your threats on Friday, absolutely everybody will see rain. So you can bet on seeing rain on Friday. There's not a ton of energy in the atmosphere, a ton of storm energy, so I'm not really forecasting a ton of storms. There may be some isolated lightning out there, so that's something that we will be watching for. By lightning, I mean storms, so it's possible that some of you will see lightning here or there, but not everybody will see that lightning. Absolutely no severe weather is expected with this event. That threat is very low, and just because it's on everybody's minds, I'm not forecasting any winter weather, no ice or snow. So most of you really just seeing rain tomorrow. Some of you may see lightning. I cannot rule that out. The threat of severe weather is super, super low, and we're not forecasting any winter weather at all. What I want to do next is just take you through your 7-day forecast. Actually, let's look at this here real quick. This is First Alert Radar because we do have showers that are out there right now. When you were driving to work, these showers were over Metro Atlanta. Kind of came out of nowhere in Alabama earlier this morning, and they just kind of moved eastward into Metro Atlanta. So let's get to First Alert Radar full. That rain has moved out. So if you're in Metro Atlanta, you don't have to worry about that rain anymore, but it does continue in northeast Georgia, so Blue Ridge, Hiawassee, Blairsville, maybe even Ellijay, you'll continue to see some light showers. That could continue for you in the mountains through the afternoon, but Metro Atlanta, again, you should stay dry for the rest of the day today. So we added that 30% chance of rain because it kind of popped up on us for your morning commute. But that's it for Metro Atlanta. Your high is 67. You will notice more clouds out there today, so definitely more clouds than what we saw yesterday, but temperatures are going to be about the same as they were yesterday. Yesterday's high was 69 degrees. For tomorrow, that First Alert Weather Day is in place, 80% chance of rain, the high 63. What's interesting is even with the rain, we're still going to see temperatures in the low 60s, so staying above average. And I tell you what, the weekend is looking fantastic Saturday and Sunday. We do have 70s back in the forecast next week. Not only do we have 70s, Maria, but we've started to bring those temperatures up. So that's certainly something that you'll enjoy. 72 on Monday, 74 on Tuesday, and 75 on Wednesday. We have some brand new model data that's coming in as we speak. So I'm going to dive into that data, and we'll be back at 11:30 to walk you through more of what you can expect here in terms of tomorrow. Also at 11:30, we're going to talk about the last freeze that we typically see, Maria, with a lot of the 70s next week. A lot of you asking, are we going to see a freeze again? So I'm looking up that data now as well, and we'll talk more about that at 11:30. Until then, that is your forecast. We'll get you back to Maria to continue to get you up to date on these headlines.
Thank you, Rodney. And we do want to take you back out now to Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta International Airport. As you can see, still waiting for this news conference to begin. For those that are just jumping in, because I do see a few new folks here with me, just want to take you through what this news conference is going to be about. So we are waiting for remarks from Mayor Andre Dickens, as well as airport officials and city, state, and community partners who will be addressing the need to combat human trafficking at the world's busiest airport. The mayor holds this news conference annually, and each year he reflects on combat efforts that city and state leaders have put into place and what they've seen out of that, as well as looking to the future. They will also stress the importance of what's being done to prevent trafficking and the importance of continued collaboration. One of the big messages I wanted to relay here, and you'll hear this throughout the course of this news conference, is if you see something that is suspicious or you think you see someone who is a victim of human trafficking, you too can also help. Georgia has a human trafficking hotline. That number is 866-363-4842. And if the victim appears to be in any immediate danger, you should definitely call 911. So taking a look again live as we are waiting for remarks from Mayor Dickens, from various airport officials. As you can see, some city and state leaders, members of law enforcement already in this room here. And as soon as we start to hear those remarks, we will take you live with audio into this room, which I do believe is happening now. Let's take a listen.
Gentlemen, we are about to begin. If you could find your way to your seats, please. As you can see, there is assigned seating. If you could find your way to your seats, we are going to begin in just a moment. Thank you.
All right, so there you heard it, beginning in just a moment, that we will be able to take you to those remarks, again, as we are continuing to follow. And just for those that are interacting with Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport today, or if you are traveling in any way, taking a live look right now outside through our First Alert weather camera at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. We did, at the beginning of this stream, report to you some tragic news out of Washington, D.C. involving an American Airlines flight and a military helicopter that had collided. That has had a rippling effect for us here in Atlanta, as flights to Reagan National Airport have been impacted. And so we're going to stay on top of that and let you know any updates. Now, we do know that the airport, Reagan International, was expected to open at 11 a.m. We will continue to monitor that and bring you the latest updates, especially for those of you flying here at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. All right, I do want to take you back into that room, as we believe the mayor is about to take to the podium, and we should be able to hear from airport officials, city leaders, to address efforts to combat human trafficking at the world's busiest airport.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport for our Human Trafficking Awareness Press Conference. To our esteemed podium guests, elected officials, distinguished guests, and our dedicated Department of Aviation employees, and everyone joining us from various organizations in our community and beyond, thank you for being. The presence of so many of you here is a powerful testament to your commitment to ending the scourge of human trafficking. It takes a strong team to battle this kind of evil in society. We begin today's program with a few words from someone who has worked tirelessly to ensure the airport remains a proactive force in this fight. The leader of our Hartsfield-Jackson team, Interim General Manager, Jan Lennon. Jan.
Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, it is a sad moment right now in the aviation industry. And before we proceed, I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge the tragic plane crash that happened over at DCA, not far from DCA, over the Potomac River. Let us bow our heads in a silence just to honor the victims, to the families.
Testing.
Okay, Sorry for that little technical difficulty there. So thank you so much for that moment of silence. As I stated, that the aviation industry is experiencing a very sad moment at this time. So with that being said, human trafficking is one of the greatest challenges of our time. It is an issue that transcends borders, communities, and industries. As the world's busiest and most efficient airport, Hartsfield-Jackson has a unique responsibility not just to connect, but to protect people as well. ATL has a long history of leading the aviation industry in the fight against human trafficking, partnering with local and national organizations to ensure we remain vigilant, proactive, and most importantly, prepared. Even though there is no known case here at Hartsfield-Jackson, we are very clear that traffickers use our airport as well as the whole entire transportation ecosystem to move undetected, which is why we have built a culture of vigilance and training to disrupt their plans before it gets started. So I ask each of you today to stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay committed. Every action counts. Every voice matters. And together, we stand as a global example of unity in this fight. I want to take a moment to acknowledge our mayor, Mayor Andre Dickens, who has championed this issue for the entire city and the state as well. His leadership goes beyond words, it's action. He has been relentless in the commitment to the underserved community, fighting for those most vulnerable, including trafficking of victims, individuals experiencing domestic violence, and those facing homelessness. Through critical programs and resources, including housing initiatives, 360 wraparound services, and expanded mental health resources, Mayor Dickens is working to ensure that those who need a path forward have the support to build a new future. His leadership is making a tangible difference in the lives of so many today, and we are grateful for his unwavering support. It is now my honor and privilege to introduce to you our visionary leader that exemplifies a commitment to action and advocacy. Please join me in welcoming the 61st Mayor of Atlanta, the Honorable Andre Dickens. I'm sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jan, for that introduction, and thank you for your leadership here. And thank you for recognizing the tragedy that we experienced overnight in the D.C. area. Thanks for that moment of silence for all those victims that I know the aviation industry is reeling from right now. But today we're talking about human trafficking. And to fight human trafficking, the City of Atlanta has had to form a strong coalition of our regional and state and federal partners. We realized early on that this issue is really way too big for just one group to successfully fight on its own. That's why this morning I'm here alongside our federal and state partners, as well as our local police department with Major Collier here, as well as representatives from our corporate community, nonprofit community, education, and faith-based organizations. As you will see from the groups represented here, human trafficking is much more than a law enforcement issue. It is where all of us will have to take part, and it takes vigilance from everyone to make sure that we eradicate it. Human trafficking is a crime that hides in plain sight. We are here at the airport because major airports are often hubs for traffickers. At our airport, we have a lot of passengers, nearly 300,000 travelers passing through these terminals every single day. We are indeed, yet and still, the world's busiest and world's most efficient. So our airport's success indeed makes us a target for those bad actors that may intend to force their will on adults and children in what we call modern-day slavery, which is human trafficking. So we urge travelers, as well as airport and airline personnel, that if you see something, you must say something. If you see something suspicious, please alert the authorities. Governor Kemp and the First Lady have made protecting Georgia's children from traffickers a priority, and this is one issue that transcends any political divides. And so I am pleased that we have lawmakers on all sides that understand the importance of shutting down what we call an evil industry that is sex trafficking and human trafficking. And so with that, right now I'd like to turn it over to the attorney who heads the State Attorney General's Human Trafficking Prosecution Unit, Hannah Palmquist.
Thank you, Mayor Dickens. Thank you to all the partners in this room. Thank you to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Atlanta Police Department, and all others who are joining in the fight to end human trafficking. Thank you to the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, not only for bringing us together today, but for your leadership in this fight. When I sat down with Attorney General Chris Carr 5 years ago to build Georgia's first statewide human trafficking prosecution unit, we had been blessed with the support of everyone here today, but also by our Governor, Brian Kemp, the support of First Lady Marty Kemp, and many members of the Georgia General Assembly. With that support, along with the determination and resolve that it could be done, we set out to make a difference in the lives of those who have been impacted by the evil of human trafficking. We knew that if this unit was going to be successful in prosecuting human trafficking, if it was going to do what had not been done before, we were going to have to use more than just traditional investigation and prosecution methods. We were going to have to utilize innovation and problem solving. But above all else, we were going to need to have compassion for the vulnerabilities that make exploitation possible in the first place. So we set out to search for every missing child, regardless of whether they had been taken by force or left home voluntarily, so that it would never again be said that a child is just a runaway. That we instead recognize that every missing child is in danger and in need of our protection from those who seek to exploit them. To date, we have recovered and assisted nearly 200 victims. We resolved that we would work difficult investigations, try difficult cases. So we reopened investigations that had been closed. We tried cases that had previously been dismissed. For 5 years, we have maintained a 100% conviction rate on child sex trafficking cases, obtaining over 50 criminal convictions. We resolved to create an environment in the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia where it is not victims who are living in fear, but they're traffickers. Most importantly, we set out to make a difference in the lives of those who have been impacted by this evil industry, to fill those needs, protect against those vulnerabilities, and give them tools needed to rebuild their lives. Countless times through partnerships with extraordinary organizations around the state, we have done just that. One victim, after her trafficker was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison, turned to us and said, "I have a voice. I finally feel like I have a voice." That's why we're all here today doing what we do, to give a voice to those who have been made to suffer in silence. We're incredibly proud of the work that we are doing in this city and in this state, but we know there is so much work left to be done. We thank you all for joining in that fight to recover every missing child, work to hold each offender accountable, and fight for the dignity of each and every child. One particular partner in that fight is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And with that, I would like to introduce Acting Special Agent in Charge, Sean Burke. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. I am here today with our partners to let you know human trafficking continues to be a concern for the FBI, not only here at the airport, but across Georgia and across the nation. From our national perspective, I can tell you human trafficking occurs in every part of the United States. As of 2024, as the end of 2024, the FBI had more than 1,600 pending human trafficking investigations. Right now, in Georgia, we're investigating 17 as potential human trafficking investigations. 93% of human trafficking cases nationwide involve sex trafficking, with labor trafficking accounting for over 6%. Numbers can be misleading, though, since labor trafficking is traditionally hard to detect, since the underlying work can be done as usually legal. Nationwide, we have 91 FBI-led child exploitation and human trafficking task forces, including one here in the metro Atlanta area. FBI Atlanta has an office right here at Hartsfield-Jackson with It may be something not just that just doesn't seem right about a group checking into a hotel, traveling through the airport. One adult repeatedly answering questions for another person who should be able to answer those questions on their own. Or as obvious as someone quietly asking for help. If you see something, say something. Call 911 or call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Criminal enterprises operating in human trafficking do so in plain sight and may go undetected for months or years before their operation is detected and dismantled. As evidenced by this group in front of you today, the FBI works side by side with all local, state, and federal partners and non-government agencies, NGOs as well, to combat this continued human trafficking problem. I would now like to turn it over to Atlanta Police Department Major Kelly Collier.
Good morning. Thank you, Agent Burke. Welcome to ATL. Welcome to the atrium. I'm Major Collier, the commander of the airport section of the Atlanta Police Department. I bring greetings from our chief, Chief Darren Sherbaum, who could not be here this morning. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, men and women of the Atlanta Police Department, all of our security personnel here at the airport, all of our non-sworn individuals at the airport that help keep this airport safe each and every day. Thank you to all of our crime-fighting partners, the FBI, AG's office, Hannah Palmquist. So this morning I'll talk about collaboration a little bit. When we talk about working with other law enforcement partners to fight human trafficking, that makes a difference. That is collaboration. APD has a major crimes unit that responds specifically to human trafficking investigators. Janet Franklin and Tracy Lewis worked with DeKalb County to save that young victim. That collaboration led to the arrest of at least 6 suspects. Working together saves lives. That collaboration also happens here at our airport. TSA agents may see a suspicious person with someone who just doesn't look comfortable. TSA shares that information with an APD officer. That officer responds, speaks with that individual, and has possibly saved another victim from human trafficking. Together, we all can make a difference. As stated before, if you see something, say something. Be a part of our NGOs, be an advocate for legislation that fights human trafficking. Thank you very much.
I thank all of our podium guests for sharing those impactful insights and amplifying the purpose of today's event. Your perspective on prevention and community collaboration truly underscores the importance of a united front in tackling those global issues. To build on this conversation, we have a cohort of speakers who you will hear from next, including Erica Mitchell from the Atlanta Public School Board, Jennifer Swain from USpark, Jared Miller from Freedom Aviation Network, and Bishop Donna Hubbard from Women at the Well. Please join me in welcoming Erica Mitchell.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Erica Mitchell, and I am the chair of Atlanta Public Schools, the Board of Education, and I represent District 5. I stand before you today to talk about some of the things that Atlanta Public Schools is doing to combat human trafficking, and some of the things I have done personally in my role as a school board member. I have served on the Council of Great City Schools, which represent over 87 school districts across the nation, and my past role is Vice Chair of the Council of Urban Boards of Education and Secretary of the National Black Council of School Board Members, both under the National School Board Association. Why I mention this is very key to what I'm getting ready to talk to you about. Back in 2018, I had the opportunity to meet Jennifer Swain at USparks. That visit at juvenile courts was an eye-opener for me as a mother, as a community member, as a school board member. During this visit, I learned that several of our students had been trafficked, and there were cases, ongoing open cases of students being victims of human trafficking. I saw firsthand what this devastating crime and how it impacted our students, our families, and our community. I heard stories and I learned about legal complex situations and had the opportunity to understand where the critical gaps left them and how we could support these students in Atlanta Public Schools. Following that visit, I knew something had to be done. I partnered with USparks to develop Atlanta Public Schools' first domestic minor sex trafficking policy. This policy was designed not only to protect the students, but to provide comprehensive training, awareness for in-school personnel, external organizations, including associations such as nonprofit, faith-based community groups, governmental entities, and how to respond when they see students that might be potential victims of human trafficking or victims. This policy served as a lifeline to ensure that students who are suspected or confirmed of domestic minor sex trafficking receive the support that they need and that we respond in a way that does not re-traumatize the students from this heinous experience. This guaranteed community care and prevention, signifying gaps to education, allowing to recover them, and to put the necessary supports in place. And I will say last year, because we had the training put in place, we were able to save 2 student victims. But the work didn't stop there. I took this policy on the national stage, and I had the opportunity to work alongside with Hannah, with AG Chris Carr office, Jane Lemon. I'm looking at you, I'm seeing you, I'm sorry. Jane Lemon with the Atlanta Airport. And we do this every year, our Youth Human Trafficking Awareness conference that we hold at Frederick Douglass High School. And I also had an opportunity to partner with USparks and Delta Airlines, where we present this policy to school board members and superintendents across the nation, because this is not only a problem in Atlanta, this is a nationwide problem, this is a worldwide problem. And how do we work together to combat this effort with students? And the work is through policy, because one of the things that I do know, you have federal law, you have state law, but you have local policy that have local control that makes a difference on how we roll out process trainings for our district, and also help to collaborate with different partners as well. With those partners, we collaborate with Wellsprings at Phoenix Academy, CASA, Juvenile Courts, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and several organizations. Additionally, we've worked with the Housing Authority, because what we wanted to prioritize students who have been trafficked, make sure their families and them have a stable environment to rebuild their lives through housing. Despite the progress we have made, there's still so much to be done. I wish human trafficking did not exist, but the reality is that it does. This is why I call for more statewide, nationwide, and local agendas that every school district implements a comprehensive human trafficking policy, protocol, and curriculum. Education is the key to prevention and protection. If we can teach our students and train our educators to recognize the warning signs, we have intervened before harm is done. We must continue to build systems that does not fail our most vulnerable students. I want to thank everyone, every partner, every advocate, every educator who has joined in this fight. Together, we can create a future that no child falls a victim of this heinous crime. Thank you. I would like to welcome Jennifer Swain with Youth Sparks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Swain. I'm the Executive Director for Youth Spark, an organization that is celebrating 25 years of acknowledging and recognizing that young people should be treated as victims and not as criminals. Thank you so much, Jan, for your leadership here at the airport. Mayor Dickens, thank you so much for your leadership and all of the partners here today. I represent the children of Youth Spark because we're here recognizing Human Trafficking Awareness Month, but our young people don't know what human trafficking is. They've watched the movie, they've seen a headline. But just 2 days ago, I sat in our Youth Services Center that is based inside of the Fulton County Juvenile Court, the largest juvenile court in the Southeast region. And young people are mainly identified because they go through that system where something bad has happened to them or they have unfortunately committed a crime. Just 2 days ago, I sat in our Youth Services Center and listened to the story of a young woman who had gone through several child welfare agency protocols, and that young person went through a 2-hour assessment in which she denied any human trafficking involvement. I'm sure the school system who's been trained asked those certain questions of that young person, and it was not identified. The young person had contact with Child Protective Services. I'm sure those questions have been asked because they are trained here in Georgia. That young person has had some contact with law enforcement, and I'm sure the questions were asked because we have been trained here in Georgia. But that young person did not know what human trafficking was. And upon learning what that was and understanding that that relationship was created because there was a deficit in her home, she used the words as a 13-year-old child that my mother is a raging alcoholic, but she's no longer doing drugs. That young person had touched almost every system in Georgia's human trafficking task force. I'm sure the questions were asked, but she didn't know what it meant. Human trafficking is something that does not appear overnight. And through our partnership with the Fulton County Juvenile Court, we're able to intervene as early as possible. One of the things that I urge all of us here to do is to continue to train and ask the questions. I thank all of our leaders here because you've not only made it a priority, you are ensuring that people know and they see something and they say something. Unfortunately, we need to do more. We need to be able to continue to step up and be innovative in the ways that we serve these children. So to work and understand the work of the AG's office when we're looking for every missing child and no longer giving them the stigma as runaway, we are above the curve in our country right now on the work that we're doing. I am very honored to work beside our corporate community as well because although we are on the ground and we're serving the children, we cannot do it alone, as Mayor Dickens just said. The traffickers are getting smarter. The recruitment tactics are going online. It affects boys and it affects girls, and it's no longer the man on the street that we should be afraid of. Their tactics are changing, and so are ours. I'm pleased to go further upstream and work with Georgia Tech Engineering Department students and Accenture to be able to understand how AI tools can help us reduce our administrative overload and help us begin tracking running away behaviors. So that when we recognize that we need resources, it's not because we heard a story, it's because we see the data. So I thank you all for the attention and the care that you've done here. On behalf of our children, thank you for what you're doing and continuing from the top down to ensure that those on the ground that are doing this work and touching the lives of children have what they need. Thank you very much. With that, up next you'll hear from Jared Miller from the Freedom Aviation Network.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here today. This is such an incredibly important event. Thank you for everyone who put this together, and to the mayor for being here today as well. So my name is Jared Miller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Freedom Aviation Network, and we exist to coordinate safe, efficient, and rapid air transportation for survivors of human trafficking and their advocates. We work all over the country, and what we do is we coordinate services and air transportation to ensure that survivors of human trafficking have access to life-changing and life-saving services. We coordinate with typically private nonprofit organizations such as the Women at the Well to ensure that they have wraparound services. So case managers like Bishop Hubbard are working with survivors, boots on the ground, and what we do is we come in and we say, there's no reason why you should not have access to these services. We're going to ensure that you get there safely. Our goals are to eliminate the transportation barrier for survivors of human trafficking, point people to hope, and restore value to human life. That's what we're here to do. Transportation is historically a major and significant barrier for survivors of human trafficking. In fact, a survey in 2019 by the Polaris Project, which runs the National Human Trafficking Hotline, says that 54% of survivors say that transportation is a barrier to leaving their situation. We're now starting to realize that that number might be more like 85%. Imagine you're a minor who was trafficked at a young age with no identification. How do you get out of your situation? How do you go places when your trafficker might even hold your identification? Imagine being an adult whose trafficker marked you as deceased with the health department. You're virtually dead. How do you access transportation? Now, also imagine that a majority of especially minors who are trafficked start out as runaway youth or similar. Now, imagine this runaway minor going to a public transportation hub. And as we've mentioned today, that's prime grooming grounds for especially minors who have run away or just vulnerable populations in general. So we actually try to keep survivors out of public transportation as much as possible by providing a private solution. So we actually work with general aviation, private pilots to make this happen. On our roster right now, we have 207 private pilots in 40 states and counting, ready to accomplish this mission. However, in human services, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all solution. Imagine the only facility in the whole country that can take your unique set of needs is, let's say we're here in Atlanta and it's all the way in Seattle. How are you going to get there? Commercial aviation is absolutely necessary in this fight, but also, we use private, we use commercial, and we use charter organizations to eliminate this barrier. So one thing that we're here today is to call on the aviation community to say, rally behind this organization, rally behind this work. There's more that the aviation community can do than just education and awareness, which is incredibly important. What you can do is actively participate in eliminating barriers for survivors of human trafficking and helping them gain services. Since we've incorporated in the fall of 2022, we've facilitated 321 flights across the country, and we've served 376 passengers across the country. Those are 376 people that now have access to hope and now know that they are so infinitely valued and important that someone wants to show up and help them, get them to where they need to go. Now, the true math of the problem is that the demand that we're looking at is a minimum of a necessary 3,000 transportation services a year. We're not even scratching the surface. So we need our partners to come along. We need the aviation community to rally around this. My message to you all here today is that there is so much more that you can do. We want you to come and see. We want you to be a part of it. We want you to rally around this effort. Thank you. And with that, I am pleased to introduce my partner and colleague and friend, Bishop Donna Hubbard from the Women at the Well.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much again for doing this, Jan, and for the ATL community. Thank you. As an American Airlines flight attendant today, it is a very difficult time, a very difficult moment. And this is the very first year, in case those of you didn't know, that flight attendants and pilots have been recognized as first responders. Since 9/11, it wasn't until 2024 that flight attendants and pilots were actually recognized officially as first responders. And so I just want to thank you for taking this moment. I'd like to say good morning also to our esteemed Mayor Dickens and to our law enforcement representatives and to all our service providers. My name is Bishop Donna Hubbard, and I'm the Executive Director of Woman at the Well Transition Center here in Atlanta. We've been here for 30 years. I am the first human trafficking survivor to be hired by a major commercial airlines. I am proud to say that in the last 30 years, Woman at the Well Transition Center has served more than 10,000 women. We have reunited 5,000 women with their families. I'm a global subject matter expert working with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and have helped to rescue about 2,000 women and children around the world. And I specialize in training aviation, law enforcement, public health, faith families, and assist in training right now for the upcoming Super Bowl. Human trafficking is not just sexual exploitation, because that's what is normally considered human trafficking, but it is so much more. It is labor trafficking, it is sexual exploitation, there are child soldiers and child brides, and the fastest growing form of human trafficking is organ trafficking, believe it or not. And so many times when people hear that, they say, well, child soldiers don't happen here. But when a drug dealer puts a package in a child's hand and gives them a weapon and says, bring me my money, he just recruited a soldier. And so we have to look and be able to see what is going on around us to truly identify human trafficking. I was trafficked by a gang. I was trafficked across the United States on all forms of transportation. I was traded for everything from AK-47s to Super Bowl tickets to kilos of cocaine, and if they lost a bet. Because you see, traffickers don't see mothers, daughters, sisters. They see ways of making money. And while you can sell a knockoff Louis Vuitton bag one time, you can sell a human being over and over and over again. And so human trafficking, while it includes all those forms of trafficking, what is most important and what I want you to remember today is recognizing and reporting it. Being watchful around your neighborhood, your schools, identifying the human trafficking footprint that your business, your industry has around the world. It does not discriminate in age, race, or gender. And our most vulnerable members of society, our children, are the most vulnerable to human trafficking. And so, as a survivor, I want to remind you that it happens in plain sight. I know it because it happened to me. And as the first human trafficking survivor to be hired by an airline, I have firsthand knowledge of how to recognize and report it. But what's most important to me today is to make sure that you understand how important it is to be trained to recognize and report it. Because what our problem is that most people don't want to report it because, number one, they don't want to be wrong, and number two, they don't want to get involved. And so we don't try to tell people to do either one of those. We leave that up to law enforcement. That's their job. That's what they're trained to do. But in order for them to do their job, we have to give them the information that they need to make those reports and have the paper trail that leads them to traffickers. And so I want to end by saying, if you really want to make a difference when it comes to human trafficking, as everyone prior to me standing up here has said, get involved. As Jennifer said, do something. As Jared said, rally. I would say to you, if you really care, C-A-R-E, don't confront a trafficker. Don't try to confront anyone. Number two, don't alarm the victim or the trafficker. Don't try to rescue anybody. That's not our job. And don't put yourself or anyone else in danger. So don't expose yourself to any danger. And I want to close by saying that while we have done major numbers in helping to bring awareness to human trafficking, as a survivor, I look at every situation a little different than other people do. So the call to action that I would say is that our culture and entertainers have to take a stand against normalizing trafficking and normalizing the sale of children and the exploitation of women and children. because trafficking thrives in the shadows of entertainment and sports and social media. Our artists and influencers and our leaders have to pledge to recognize and report and refuse to continue to normalize this. We need stronger policies and more victim support. We need to make sure that once they're arrested, they are actually prosecuted and convicted, and that there are more survivor-led initiatives to make a difference. My motto, and I tell people all the time, no more conversations about us without us. So I encourage you to remember the policy here at the Atlanta Airport, Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, and here in Atlanta. If you see something, say something, but don't just do that. Don't just say something, make a difference by doing something. Train, you can go to the Department of Homeland Security and take their Blue Lightning online course. You can get information and pamphlets. And finally, Woman at the Well Transition Center is formally now a partner with the Child ID program. This Child ID packet is the best gift you can give your children. We don't always give law enforcement our information, but this packet right here gives them all the information they need very quickly. You fill it out for each child and put it away until you need it. When you give it to them, they don't have to wait 48, 72 hours. They can look for your child now. These packets are available in our schools. They're available. All you've got to do is let me know. Thank you again so much for everyone for turning up and for making a difference. God bless you.
In closing, we will hear from our interim Deputy General Manager, Candace Brown.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. I trust now that you have a better understanding of the resoluteness of our communities and our state in combating human trafficking. As we work toward winning the battle against human trafficking, partnership and participation are key from the national level to our communities. I encourage you to find a place where you can contribute to this important work. You can also visit ATL.com for more information about human trafficking. Thank you very much for being here today. At this time, we will welcome one-on-one interviews.
And you just heard from airport officials, the mayor, as well as other state and city partners now getting ready to talk to reporters one-on-one. I just want to take you back out live to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport as we continue to monitor the airport situation and follow the story out of Washington, D.C., currently impacting flights headed there from the world's busiest airport right here in Metro Atlanta. I do just want to echo some of the remarks that you heard from Mayor. If you see something, do say something. We have put out the phone number for you of the Georgia hotline for human trafficking on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, as well as more information and where you can watch this news conference and follow along for the ongoing efforts to combat human trafficking